back hurt. I can't even go sit in a hard ass chair today.
We're live, sis. You hear me, sis?
What'd you say? Oh my God. Peace and love, family. I'm sorry, y'all. How y'all doing? Thank you for joining us. Another edition of the Ram Book Club. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Resurgence of the African Mind, where we seek to liberate African minds by reading one unit of work at a time. I am your. What the hell is going on? Wow. I'm sorry, family. It's a mess today. Resurgence of the African Mind, where we seek to liberate African minds by reading one unit of work at a time. Of course, you guys know that we are starting off with the Blueprint for Black Power by Amos Wilson. My name is Alili La Poete Speaks, aka Alima Njai. I am the author of Perceptions of a Misplaced African, Volume 1, available on www.lililapoetespeaks.com. Of course, as you know, family, you will go there, and that's where you will get the links to either join the panel or listen in the discussion box. Last week, we did chapter 17, so we are really combing through it, family. We did Empowerment Through Wealth, and we talked about the tradition of trade and self-help among African Americans. We also talked about Tulsa, the Black Promised Land, all Black towns in America, and Black Phoenix Rise from the Ashes. This week, we're on chapter 18, Benevolent Front Assaults, Local and Global African Markets. We're going to talk about Community Development Corporation, the LIS initiative, why not Black-owned shopping centers, and we're going to get into a lot more. Once again, my name is Lee La Poete Speaks. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves.
Peace and power, family. Oh yeah, Maat, also known as Dr. Deanna Bailey. I am an adjunct professor over at the School of Engineering at Morgan State University. I teach digital communication and wireless communications. Founder of Ed Anime Productions, which is a company that was created to provide the community, our babies, with audio and visual and books that will awaken the genius of African children. And Dr. Amos Wilson actually wrote books on awakening the genius of African babies. And so that is the whole objective of the company, Ed Anime Productions. Right now, our flagship project is available. Is an animated hip hop series entitled Meltrek, which teaches our children from an African perspective. Just go to Google, type in Meltrek, Meltrek in the search engine, and links to view the film and or to purchase the film will populate. It's a pleasure, sis, to be on a panel every week after week. My sister Halima with brother Travis. I know that Sister Camille, she inboxed me earlier. She said that she had a concert tonight, so she'll be running a little late. I haven't spoken to Brother Tawola or Brother Impu or Brother Knowledge Born, but they may or may not be joining us later on. But sis, I'm excited about this chapter. Chapter 18. We're more than half the way through Blueprint for Black Power. I mean, this is a heavy text, 868 page text, and here it is. We're on page 5. So we're more than half the way finished the book. And I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Ashe. Brother Travis?
Oh, peace, family. Eager to get started tonight. I'm Brother Travis out of Detroit. I'm an IT professional. Love to build websites on the side and do coding. Welcome family who's out there on the YouTube channel. We're getting ready to get into it. I'm just ready to build. Peace.
All right, family. Well, let's get into it. Let me get to my page. All right, chapter 18. The Community Development Corporation as Economic Front. Baba is going to start talking to us about the LIC, and the LIC is the Local Initiative Support Corporation. It was founded in 1979. And it mainly identified with low-income housing development, for which it raised $648 million through 91 in donations from foundations and investments by the corporation. So this is a retail initiative. And their plans is they have a 10-year plan here for this initiative. And they hope to raise $10 to $13 million, which of course, family, you know, this was in the 90s. So this is past tense. So they've done it actually. But towards the bottom, that is the Retail Initiative Corporation expects to generate an annual pre-tax return of at least 10% for investors. Investors will be given stakes in the stores constructed by the initiative. It principally provides the equity to get commercial projects started by developing the site and leasing spaces to chain stores and independent retailers. The LISC Equity Fund provides community groups with initial financing and low interest loans to cover up to 30% of the development costs. Additional costs are generally covered by conventional loans at market rates. So Baba is breaking down for us the way that the fund works, which is it's a typical fund, actually, the way that they operate. It's typical of how most funds work. Okay, so we're going to go on. Let's see here. The next context, Baba is a little bit just breaking down a little bit more about the LISC. He's talking about the supermarkets and the different types of monies and things that they made at that time is not necessarily pertinent right now because that's from 1994. So we're going to move on down. The LISC initiative, a Trojan horse. I'm at the top of 447, family. The reduction in the cost of living commercial projects like that proposed by LISC will make possible for African American families is welcome indeed. So are the increased jobs such as projects will produce along the measurably positive collateral economic and social benefits they will bestow on their local communities in urban areas. So the LISC, basically they propose that by them doing this retail initiative, that is going to benefit the Black community somehow, right? As that's what they always say, that when they come in with these big projects, that it's going to bring in jobs, and job is going to bring in more wealth for our community, yada, yada, yada. We've heard that before. No doubt the foundation and corporations whose donations and investments will make such projects a reality will feel justifiably proud on their socioeconomic handiwork. Of course, it'll make them feel great, like they've done something. In actuality, they haven't. Anybody want to add anything?
So yes, sis. So I'm just, when you were reading, I couldn't help but to think of the initiative that they have in Baltimore with these vacant homes, where they're encouraging us to. They say, well, look, you can buy a vacant home for $1, but here's the catch, sis. You have to qualify from a loan from their financial companies. Use their contractors to rehab the home. So I can't just go and purchase the home for $1, right? I can't just go down there and say, look, I want to buy one of these homes, one of these vacant homes for $1, and then pull together my resources, go in and rehab the house. I can purchase it for $1 if, and this is supposed to be a community development project, right? Wow. I can only go in and buy these homes for $1 if and only if you qualify for a financial loan through one of the banks. So they'll give you a list of banks and you can apply for a loan, and you have to also use their contractors, and none of the contractors are African or African American people.
Wow.
So, so like you said, sis, when you were talking about this LISC, you were saying how the developers, they'll come in and they say, okay, we're going to develop this community for the benefit of the people who live there. Mm-hmm. When in actuality, they go in and it's only to benefit themselves. That's right. And we've seen this time and time again. Brother Travis, did you want to add to that, brother?
I had a question. What if you have the money? Do you have to borrow the money? Could you get it for $1 if you already have the money for rehab?
Well, it sounds like from what she was saying, even if you buy it straight out, you have to use their contractors to fix the house.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, or they'll charge you a different rate if you just go out and buy like a row house. I've seen those Baltimore row houses. They're real nice. I've seen those.
Yeah.
The potential of those. I really like those. But I was just wondering if you had the money, you would still.
You won't get it for $1. Now you can come in. You won't get it for $1.
No, gotcha. You won't get it for $1.
Yeah, you would just have to go out and find a vacant home and purchase it with that money that you already have and rehab it with your own money. But for this particular program, you get it for $1. They are assuming that you're going to find that, you had to qualify for the loan, and then you have to use their contractor. So you can always come and buy a property. But
here's another way. Say, for example, okay, you qualify for the loan, but you want to borrow against your own money from that bank. You put your money up as collateral, and then you borrow against your own money.
Yeah, but you still have to use their
contractors.
Their contractor.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the stipulation.
Yeah.
Them white folks are something else.
Oh yeah, they gotta make sure they still stay in the loop now. They're not still.
Yeah. Right.
And so, like you say, sis, we've seen this time and time again. It seems like that's the formula.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't help but to think about in the previous chapters where Dr. Amos Wilson talked about the World Bank and the IMF and how they'll go over to poor countries and say, we'll help you, we'll help you, we'll help to develop your land or your environment or whatever. But really, they had a low success rate that we saw,
right.
And it was, like you said, is they go in, they say we're going to help to develop these communities, when really they go in to exploit these community and exactly. So that's what I thought about, sis, while you were talking or reading about the LISC.
That's right. All right, let's move on. But be that as it may, the African American community must not renege on its self-interest obligation to look this gift horse in the mouth. In fact, the LISC initiative may be better described as a Trojan horse. LISC is not merely a philanthropic entity or initiative or charitable trust. LISC, like any number of other similar organizations, functions in its role as a commercial developer, at least as a nonprofit shield or front for profit-making undertakings whose return on investment will exclusively benefit America's largest white-owned capitalist juggernauts. The humanistic intentions of the proposed LIC commercial initiative to economically rehabilitate inner city communities is belied by the fact that it is perfectly clear to any astute observer that bringing white monopoly capitalists back into the same communities to plunder them again after having plundered them and abandoned them earlier. In this instance, we can easily discern the imperialistic role played by major white philanthropic organizations, such as the Ford and Rockefeller Foundations, that of clearing the grounds for establishment of new white corporate construction. The natives on whose territory these new white-owned establishments will be preemptively constructed will profit little. Having been displaced by progress, they will only see their money sucked out of their pockets and into the overstuffed pockets of white and alien financiers, merchants, and shopkeepers. So it's like we were just saying, sis and brother Travis. How you doing, brother Tuola? It's like we were just saying, you know what I mean? Like he says, it's a Trojan horse, number one. And you have to understand that their biggest gain or biggest motivation is for better gains for themselves. It's never for the overall benefit of the Black community.
Never.
True.
Never.
Very true.
Never. Brother Tuola, peace and power to you, brother.
Peace and Black power, family. Are we on page 447?
Yes, sir. We're getting ready to start. We're getting ready to start the next section. Why not Black-owned shopping centers? I can kick it off, Sister Alima.
Go ahead, Queen.
It says, in their flashy press releases, the LISC and its local cohorts leave unexplained how the African-American community may come to own and operate the collateral businesses associated with the anchoring supermarkets and in the neighborhoods surrounding the proposed inner city shopping malls or centers. So how or if Black institutional and individual investors will be prime or major beneficiaries of the dividends to be earned from these projects. Why are no Black-owned banks, investment houses, insurance companies, individuals, families, and other institutions not mentioned as major investors in LICS projects? The anchor supermarket in the LISC projects be a white-owned corporation. See, Brother T and Brother Tuola, I was just, before you clicked on, I was just sharing with the panel and the viewers the program that they have in Baltimore, where you get to purchase a vacant home for $1. But the catch is that you have to qualify for a loan from one of their banks. And also you had to use their contractors, none of which are African or African-American. What was the name of the program, Brother Tobola? I just want to make sure I'm giving the people correct information. What was the name of the program?
I'm aware of the program. I remember us mentioning it a couple of weeks back. It's the value for vacancy program.
It's called value to vacancy or vacancy. I'm sorry, vacant.
Yeah, vacancy to value. That's the $1 program that started in 1976 in Baltimore, and it's been recreated as this under our last mayor of Baltimore, which is Stephanie Rawlings Blake. That was her program, Vacants to Value. And you have to use a contractor. But if you remember last week, if you remember last week, I was sharing with you the Korean organization, K-Grow. I wonder if they took some of those abandoned buildings in our communities and bought for $1. Because if you look at our Black communities, East Side and West Side Baltimore, you have the most business are owned by Korean and other Asian markets. And as I showed last week, K-Grow also partners with our delegates, our senators, and our mayor in order to help with donations with our Black churches. And also they got the backing of all the congressmen, delegates, and mayors. So there's no way for us to participate. And as you see, Barbara Wilson mentioned, how can we make any cash? How can it benefit us?
Absolutely.
The Trojan horse, the stalking horse, the gift horse. None of these things are benefiting us.
That's right. Yeah, but Dr. Amos Wilson made a good point, at the top of page 448, where you got these developers who come into the community and they say that they're developing the community for the benefit of the people there, but yet none of the people in the community are part of developing it. You get what I'm saying? It's like, he's getting ready to go into, the fact, like, what did he say at the last line? He said the Anchor Supermarket in the LIS project, he said they're a white-owned corporation, right? So he says that there are Black-owned supermarket corporations and other Black-owned food service and distribution companies, such as the Restoration Supermarket Corporation, Community Foods, Inc., Calhoun Food Supermarket, TLC, Beatrice International Holdings, and the Anderson DeBose Company, who might welcome the opportunity to expand their operations by leasing spaces, anchoring major inner city shopping centers, malls, and commercial streets, right? So he's going into that. And he's saying that there are a number of these people, but he's saying that they're not involved in the development,
Right.
in this process.
They handle the most important thing for any business, and that's consumerism, right?
That's right.
It was an article written last year that said gentrification only works if poor people stay. You have to have the poor people. Why? They can use this organization, the Local Initiative Support Corporation, to come in to give us the Trojan horse to say, hey, I'm here to help create opportunities for African American communities. They can come in with that Trojan horse just to suck money out of it. It's just what they do. And that's one of the things I posed last week on a post was, what do you do? What's the purpose of your community association, and how do we utilize our elected politicians, our city and state? Because if you have a neighborhood association, you should be able to see what business come in your community and how it can benefit your community. But if you're not part of the neighborhood association, you have no stance.
That's true.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with you, brother. So I just want to move on because I want to make this point right here. He says in the middle of the paragraph, because now, they present themselves as being charitable, right? Well, Dr. Amos Wilson says that the charitable thing for white-owned foundations and capitalists to do would be to lend their monetary and human resources to the development of a truly Black-owned and controlled business and financial establishments, so that the Black community may captain its own economic ship. right? That would be the charitable thing to do. But he says, since this is a highly unlikely proposition, the Black community must find and develop ways of harnessing its own monetary and human resources to achieve the goal. All right. He goes on to say on page 449, did anyone else want to add before I continue?
Well, you want to, I see on page 448, they mention the Black business that we do have, if I'm not mistaken, like the TLC Futures International Holdings. Remember
I read that, brother.
Huh?
I said I read that earlier, but if you want to elaborate on it.
Oh, I'm just I wanted to bring a point on that used to be owned by our dear brother in Baltimore, Reginald F. Lewis, and when he passed, I'm not sure what year he passed. I'm assuming it was like maybe early 90s or maybe late 90s. It was taken over by his wife and his daughter, I believe, and then it was later sold to Johnson & Johnson. So remember, Reginald F. Lewis was the first Black billionaire. So if anybody could have helped people in his city, it would have been him, you know.
That's right.
So we have to petition our Black-owned business in order to make these leaps and bounds in our communities, because as you see, they used the Ford Association, which gave over $24 million. So we definitely need our business in order for this initiative, in order to make some strides in our communities. So I just wanted to make that point, Dr. Maat, before we moved on.
That was a wonderful point. So you said that he owns food supermarket?
He said the TLC Beatrice.
Oh,
yeah,
TLC Beatrice. Thanks, sis.
That was
wow. I didn't know that.
By our brother Reginald F. Lewis.
Oh, but I didn't know that, bro.
He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer, graduated from Harvard, but he went to Douglas High School up there in Mondawmin.
Wow, bro. Yeah, I didn't know that. I know
wife and daughter would have kept it, then it wouldn't have got sold. They sold it.
Yeah, well, he married a woman outside the community.
Oh, see.
How do you write it? That sold to Johnson and Johnson. Wow.
Dr. Maat, you said the program for the rehab. I got a lot of feedback here.
No, that's brother Everin. That's why I keep using his mic, because every time, brother Everin, you have to I don't know if you have something like a device plan. Each time you unmute your mic, it's like it's an echo. So I don't know if you have another device playing in the background, or if you're looking at it on YouTube or listening to it on your phone. I don't know. But whenever you unmute your mic, we hear an echo. But Brother Travis, please continue, brother.
It's Mayor Blake, Stephanie Blake. I remember Stephanie Blake, your former mayor. You said that she created the program for the $1. So she put that in the contract, that there had to be white contractors?
Well, no, she brought the contract back, Brother Travis. The contract was originally created. I mean, the program was originally created by Donald Schaefer, which was a mayor. He did it in the 70s.
Gotcha.
When he was part of the council of and then when he became mayor, they started the program like in the early 80s. And they redid the program with Stephanie Rowling Blake.
Wow.
You had to use the city contractors. That's the point. Yes.
It's just like
so she only revived it, basically. That's what. Right. Yeah, she revived it. But Brother T, quick question. Bro. The contractors are mainly white, right? I just want to make sure that I'm giving them, like, the majority of these contractors are European, right?
Now, to say, I don't have a list of the contractors, but there's very few Black contractors. If you remember, our former mayor, Sheila Dixon, got in trouble because I think her significant other was a contractor, and she was giving him some jobs. So that was probably the only Black mayor who was giving away Black contracts at the time. But I digress. There's not many Black contracts I can say.
Gotcha. All right. Got you. Did anyone want to add anything from the top of page 449? Because if not, I was going to read the bottom paragraph. It is African Americans. Did anyone want to add or talk about the great?
That's all I had was just that short paragraph that you're about to read.
Yes, sis. So it says it is African Americans who must ultimately solve their own social and economic problems. I want to say this again, sis, because we have a very high dependency or high dependent mentality. We kind of look to everyone else to like solve our problems. And we get happy when people take up our causes. It is African Americans who must ultimately solve their own social and economic problems. Not white Jesus, not the pie in the sky. And I'm not, and I'm not being smart, sis. I'm being dead serious. Not white Jesus, not the pie in the sky. It is African Americans who must ultimately solve our own social and economic problems. When outside governmental agencies, corporations, foundations, and nonprofit organizations plan and execute developmental programs for the African American community, they do so in their own alien interests and for their own benefit. Not, oh my Lord, Jesus Christ. All right. I'm sorry. They do so in their own alien interest and for their own benefit, not in the interest and for the benefit of the African American people. Mm-hmm. So I want the viewers to understand that when these end and they want to be charitable, there's always an underlying ulterior motive. Okay. Yes. I just want to make that clear. These folks aren't just trying to save you just to be nice. Mm-hmm. These folks do not care about you. All right. I want to make that clear. They don't care about you. Sis, anything else you want to add?
No, that's all I had on 449.
Okay, brothers on the panel, anything else on page 449 before we move on?
It just seems like it's a fail-safe mechanism within politics to preserve white interests. Doesn't matter if you have black leadership in power. It seems like it's always some kind of fail-safe mechanism to draw it back to white interests.
I don't even think it's a failed mechanism. It's their politics.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that their politics are geared towards the benefit of them and their people.
Absolutely. And like you said,
it doesn't matter what color.
Mm-hmm. No, right. Because it wasn't created with us in mind. You know what I mean? So it's not going to adhere to us now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the last paragraph, well, not the last paragraph in this section at the top of page 450, Dr. Amos Wilson says that white planned and financed projects do more harm than good. Mm-hmm. Projects planned and developed by outsiders deny African Americans a say in decisions purportedly made in their behalf. African Americans the right to be the first to benefit from their own economic activities and consumption habits. They impair the ability of the African American community to provide its own solutions to its own problems, to set its own pace and direction of development according to its own cultural agenda. That was powerful.
Yes.
That was powerful. That was extremely powerful.
Yes, indeed, Queen. I got that highlighted and underlined.
So let me confuse initiative with philanthropy. Anyone want to kick that off?
Well, really, I read this here. He's talking about Grogan starts to speak, and Grogan is he's the president of the LIC, and he had some very conflicting different things that he said, but basically he did mention that we should not confuse philanthropy with retail initiative, because that's the way that they'll try to put it with any type of initiative. They'll make it seem like we mentioned earlier today that it's for the betterment of the community. So when you say things like, oh wow, this is going to develop the community, then it seems like philanthropy, like charity, like wow, they want to come and put these businesses here and they're trying to employ us and give us jobs, but not really understanding that we're not the one benefiting from these jobs. We are there because we are the consumers, and we like to consume, and so that's why they have us here. And so anyway, to basically sum it up without reading it, unless somebody wanted to read it specifically, that's just he's just talking about the supermarket. He's talking about how it's easy to put different businesses in the Black communities, which of course we already know that. talks about buying power, and basically that's about it. The only thing that I hampered on was the little italicized section where he says, of course, the resale initiative should not be confused with philanthropy. That's not why the likes of Banks of America, Bankers Trust, GE Capital have signed up. They don't sign up for that. They sign up to make money. This banks are in the making money business, which is basically what he was emphasizing here.
Correct.
Wow, but did you hear what you just said, sis? You said that they feel like, here it is, the president of this organization, right? Mm-hmm. Saying that it's easy to put businesses in the Black community.
Yes.
Which it is.
It is.
Because we're not conditioned and trained to spend our money like us. Now try to go into the community or other communities and try to put a business there. You wouldn't be successful. No one would buy from you. But we buy we buy from everybody. And they know this. You know, non-Blacks, whatever you want to call them, non-Blacks, non-Africans, they know this. But I find it quite arrogant, my sister, that, hey, I mean, that was extremely arrogant. You know, it's easy to put businesses in the Black community.
I mean, he says supermarkets do very well against the inner city competition, like the delicatessens and the corner stores, because they know that the supermarkets, they know that if they come into our community, that especially considering it's not going to be any other competition. It's not like there's a whole bunch of supermarkets flooding to be in the inner city. So if they have one major supermarket, then they're going to make all of the money. Because there's nowhere else for the people in the inner city to go. Not to mention, a lot of them don't have cars. They take public transportation. They're going to go to what's closest.
Exactly. That's how they do it in Detroit.
That's right.
And that's how it is in Baltimore, sis. Like in a lot of these impoverished neighborhoods, like the supermarket may be 20 minutes up the road, you know. But if you don't have transportation to get there, you get what I'm saying, sis? That's like right. Oh man.
That's right, Gwen.
He's telling me works. But that's how it is.
Right. And he's talking about the supermarket, and he was talking about how he said the neighborhoods that they lost blocks of houses and stuff because of the supermarkets and things like that. They come in and they dominate. Like they force people to move, all different types of things, all in the interest of so-called bettering the communities. Okay, family, moving on. Baba goes to iterate what you just said, sis. He says, obviously, Grogan has little or no concern for the possible bankruptcy of local merchants and shopkeepers, which may occur as the result of the entry of giant supermarkets and chain stores into their markets. Neither does he show any appreciation of or respect for the economic needs and goals of inner city inhabitants, especially those of the African American community. The social movement of Black Americans toward greater economic self-sufficiency and self-determination, the need of the Black community to gain greater control of its internal markets in order to advance and enhance its economic prospects as well as to empower itself politically, will be vitiated by Grogan's brazen belief that what's good for multinational corporations is good for Black America. He gives little or no thought to the primary economic problem in the Black American community. How may Black consumer and business dollars be retained longer and made to circulate more frequently within the Black community before leaving it, thereby benefiting a larger number of its inhabitants and enhancing its general welfare? Instead, the community is greedily looked at as a plump chicken ready for easy plucking by corporate butchers. Once again, instead, the community is greedily looked at as a plump chicken ready for easy plucking by corporate butchers. Grogan goes on to contend. He says, despite the inner city's low incomes, their high population density gives them potent buying power. So even though we may not make a lot of money, businesses see dollars when they see us because there's so many people in small areas. And so when there's so many people in small areas, then that's more business for you. And then not to mention when you put certain businesses like retail, they already know that's going to pop because we love fashion. We love to shop. Black people love to look good. Love it. They're going to do whatever it takes to look good, and Black people know it. I will never forget, family. This is slightly off topic just for a second, but I was watching, it's still on topic, but I was watching, you ever seen the Chris Rock, that documentary he did, Good Hair?
I knew of it, but I never watched it. Was it pretty good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was very interesting. But what I thought was really important about this dynamic is that they were interviewing a lot of different Black women, and, you know, they're talking to them about their hair. And it was amazing to me how some of them would say that they spent like $500, $600, $700 on their hairdos.
Remember Gabby Douglas, how they attacked her?
Huh?
Remember how they attacked Gabby Douglas, that gymnast?
What did she do? Oh, her hair, yeah. Because it was natural. But what I'm trying to lead into is that we'll spend anything in order to look good, so people can come into our communities and dominate. So they can come into the community and open up a weave shop or whatever, because they know that the ladies are going to go and buy the weaves. You know what I'm saying? But yet and still, we're not benefiting at all from these businesses. And then a lot of the Asian ones, they won't even hire Black people.
She had won all these medals. Perfectly, you were absolutely correct, sister. She had dominated that year in the Olympics, and because her hair wasn't perm, her hair wasn't as groomed as the women thought so, they got online and attacked the girl because her perm wasn't together.
Yeah,
I remember
Remember that?
I remember that.
I couldn't believe that. I mean, she was incredible gymnast, and they were attacking her because her perm wasn't together.
Because that's what's important. It's about how you look, Brother Travis.
Wow.
It's about how you look. You've got to look a certain type of way. But I didn't really mean to get off topic there, family.
That's a good point, though. That's a good point.
You know what I mean? That we do have that potent buying power, and they know it. They really do. They know it, and they capitalize off it every single time.
And we send their kids to college.
The inner city offers supermarkets low rents too, which makes sense if you think about it. I mean, the inner city, you know, everything is based off of value, right? So if we talk about inner city, a lot of things are pretty impoverished and raggedy. So quite naturally, if a supermarket comes in and they've got the money to fix up a little raggedy building that they've purchased, so they can come in and they're going to purchase that building for next to nothing and capitalize double time because they didn't even spend anything to buy it.
Absolutely. So look, he said that while so the rents are low, he said, and while these neighborhoods do present some business problems, higher security, for example, says the comeback communities are by definition areas where residents are dedicated to improving where they live. This attitude sets in motion positive forces to help overcome many inner city problems. It says in such all residents are likely to give supermarkets that come to their areas and much money to court customer loyalty. So they know that we are a loyal people.
Yes, we are. That's right.
I remember this brother wrote a blog a long time ago, and when Facebook shut down my other page, oh my God, sis, I lost contact with a lot of brothers and sisters. But there was this brother that wrote a blog called "Buying Black Requires Us to Break Brand Loyalty," something like that. I may have butchered the title of his blog, but you know, that was the whole point of the blog, that in order to buy Black, he said that we have to break brand loyalty. We are loyal and we pass brands down from generation to generation. Like I remember when I got my first place, I continued to use all of the products that my mother used. Tide, we used Scott toilet paper, Bounty paper towels, the food. You get what I'm saying, sis? We are very loyal. You know, and these predators, and that's what I'm gonna call them, sis. They're nothing but parasites, predators. They know, they have studied us, and they know this. It's no coincidence that when foreigners come over here, that they go right into the Black communities to establish a business because they got word. Go into these communities, you're gonna make a lot of money. These people will spend. They study us and they understand that about us.
That's right, sis. It's facts. It really is. Like you said, they automatically know that as soon as they get here, they automatically know where to put their businesses at. They already know. They know what they should sell and who they should sell it to. You don't see them Arabs trying to go over there in the white people neighborhood trying to sell some goddamn halal. They know them white people gonna tell them get the hell out of here. We don't want that.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
You don't see them setting up hip hop fried chicken
in
the Jewish communities and the other communities. But they come to the Black communities
because they know that those people will run their asses out of there. We don't do that. We let anybody come and set up shop. It doesn't matter who it is. And then half the time we don't even like it. We'll talk junk while we walking up the street, and then we go up here and get my drink from this stupid ass Arab. Like I hear us say stuff like that, and we'll still go in there and give us our money, and I give them our money, and I be thinking to myself, where's the smarts? Where's the intellect in this situation? You don't even like the person, but you'll still patronize.
But you'll spend exactly. You don't like
think if other races don't like us, that they're going to patronize us?
No, they don't.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely not, sis. But you know that boils down to culture. That boils down to our mindset, sis. I remember reading, I'm actually in the process of reading, in the middle of reading Cultural Misorientation, The Greatest Threat to the Survival in the Black Race in the 21st Century by Dr. Kobe Kambon. And in the book, he said Black people, we have a mental disorder. We have a mental disorder and a personality. We obviously do, because who in their right mind, let's think about this, who in their right mind would spend money with people who don't invest in them, money with people who don't respect them, money with people who don't like them? Only someone who is out of his or her mind will continue to do the thing. So that's just evidence. That is just evidence that we really have a serious mental problem, sis. Really.
I agree.
Really. And I don't care what H&M did. They could have put a goddamn 2 monkeys on that daggone child. I guarantee you there will still be Black people who patronize H&M. Knowing this, will still patronize H&M.
I agree.
So anyway, sis, let's move on, sis, because you and I, we get pumped up. So what is this?
Low income, high profits. So here, Greenberg also reveals that low income neighborhoods that are densely populated can be a gold mine for sharp retailers. Greenberg further adds that residents of such neighborhoods like apparel. They're very fashion conscious. If good retailers can focus in, they will do quite well. We go on to Greenberg. Now it starts talking about Jimmy Kesry. I might be messing up his name, but he is the owner of Jimmy Jazz. I know y'all are pretty familiar with Jimmy Jazz. It's been around for a while. It's in all the urban communities. All the Black people shop there. So, he basically realized that, okay, let me put me some businesses in these low income neighborhoods. And so they said that he's 33 at the time when this was written, but he was the owner of 15 stores at the age of 33. So that just shows you how much Black people patronize this man, to the point that he was able to open so many stores, and I would imagine probably a short amount of time. They said that he says if stores service the ethnic customer the right way and give the right services, they will be very successful. Cranes, Ibid. Within 6 years of opening his first Jimmy Jazz store in '88, Kesry's retail units generated more than $30 million annually by selling fashion labels to residents of New York City's low-income neighborhoods. Ain't that something? Low income. He made $30 million from the low-income neighborhoods.
And sis, this kind of elucidates the values of the low-income residents.
That's right, Queen.
You get what I'm saying? Dr. Amos Wilson always says, and even in this book, and I was just watching Dr. Amos Wilson's lecture, The Falsification of African Consciousness. As a matter of fact, it's on YouTube. It's about a 2-hour lecture. I sat down and watched it on Friday. And he also said this in Blueprint for Black Power. He said, money follows your values.
Yes.
On that which you value.
That's
and so
right.
like you said, it's a low income neighborhood, but yet he was able to make $30 million off of these
$1 billion.
Because these low income people value labels.
That's right.
They value clothing.
That's right.
And that's how he.
That's right, because he should have never been able to make that off of fucking low income people. These people don't have any money, right? Supposedly. How was he able to make that?
Exactly. And Brother Tawola, do you remember the Jimmy Jazz in Mondawmin Mall?
Yeah.
We have a Jimmy Jazz in Mondawmin Mall. They made money. I remember when I would go to Mondawmin Mall, walk past Jimmy Jazz, it would be packed in there, sis. What store he's talking about, and it was in a predominantly Black mall, which is called Mondawmin Mall, which is owned by a Jew, and is located in the west part of Baltimore City. And one
time that mall handled more cash than any mall in our city or our state. I had a good friend who owned a store, Inner City Gear. That mall brought in over $85,000. That store brought more than $85,000 a month in cash, because they didn't use credit cards in Mondawmin. It's known everybody brings cash.
Wow, 85 grand in a month.
In a month.
That's insane.
He would bring that.
We're talking about in an impoverished. He tell you in an impoverished community.
Yeah.
So it's in.
Yep.
I mean, it's about like Jamaica Avenue in Queens. That shit is owned by all Jews and Arabs and stuff like that. And it's not in one of the best parts of town, but Jamaica Ave has been popping since before I was even born. Just full of black people, just shopping.
Right. Well, you say we have $1 trillion in income.
Wow.
So the money comes from somewhere.
All right. Well, that's all I had on 452. Anybody else have anything else?
No, sis. We can comb on through it.
All right. Well, Crane, you know, he's going on to report, and he's talking about African Americans and Hispanic and how we set up. He's talking more about Jimmy Jazz, talking about the quality of the clothes, and he's saying that, you know, although higher end retailers would not want to put their businesses in low income neighborhoods, that is profitable. And not to mention, he's also saying it's not really that cheap either. You know, he's giving out some of the prices. I mean, $40 for a sweatshirt, $100 just for a little jacket. So it's not like they're spending small amounts of money either. You know what I mean? It's not Walmart. So these people are shopping, spending cash. Okay, so I went to the middle of the page. There is no good reason why Kesri, or however you say his name, a Syrian immigrant, and other alien merchants like him should be virtually the exclusive retailers in the Black community, when Black retailers can provide the same services while keeping their business as well as their earnings in the family. Kesri's success, as well as that of other alien merchants located in Black neighborhoods, discredits the common myth in the African American community that it is not possible to achieve a high level of business success by servicing Black customers almost exclusively. This myth has done more to discourage Black entrepreneurialism than the reputed unavailability of finance capital to would-be Black entrepreneurs. If Black entrepreneurs and prospective Black investors, both individual and institutional, are confident that Black consumers have the wealth and the will to support Black-owned businesses, then they will be more forthcoming in making the increase and predominance of such businesses a reality in the African American community. And when I thought about, when I was reading this, I was thinking about how when he's talking about the myth, and a lot of us, we do say that. We say that African American people, you know, that we don't support, I guess we say particularly we don't support one another, but we do support. So what I'm learning is that it's not necessarily that we won't buy from one another, but it's what we have to have. Because I'm thinking about certain people that I knew coming up, Black people that owned certain stores, and they had much success. But then I think about, what were they selling? And they were selling labels. They were selling labels. So it seems like we can succeed when we're selling something that the white man is already selling that you like.
Yeah.
But when we're trying to create something new, something a little bit different, that's when we have the struggle.
And sis, you hit the daggone hammer on the nail when you said that we basically, like you said, they were selling labels, and we value labels. So it's sold because that's what we value, sis. And so now I understand why Dr. Amos Wilson said we have to control our tastes. We have to be the molders and shapers of our tastes, of our attitudes, of our beliefs, right? Because all of that ties to values. You get what I'm saying? We had that European taste. So I gotta be honest, sis, when I was out there, and I'm being very transparent, my brother's on the panel, so he knows what I'm talking about. When I was out there, I was a label whore. Okay? I was a label whore because that's what I valued, sis. So when I started making money, you know what I did? Cabana jeans for $500. I bought D-Square jeans for $500. I had Gucci shoes, Gucci shirts, sis. You hear what I'm telling you? That's because of my value, sis.
That's right.
Because of my taste. You said what, T?
You were fly.
My brother tell you, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, when I could afford it, that's what I ran and got, because that's what I valued in that particular space, right? And my money followed my values. Okay.
Now check this out. I just want to make this one point on his page, just about the Korean Americans who actually own some of the business. It was a study, a social science study by this author, Woon Moo Her. And he says we have to charge higher prices to offset the higher cost of doing business in poor neighborhoods. Some, not all, of our Black customers do steal. So, and it goes on and on with some other points of why they overprice some of the garments that may not be even worth that.
That's right.
So, you know, they have to account for cost of stealing and damaged goods and things like that. So, you know, we're definitely being used for our resources for buying cheaply made clothing. You know, so it's one of the things that we are being plagued. It's being plagued against us.
I agree.
Everybody hear me?
I agree, bro. Everyone, we can hear you, brother.
Okay, so I guess the background noise has ceased, so I guess it's working now.
Yes.
But it's interesting, and even when Dr. Amos was said it best, is always desire and taste. Go out the way to pursue or gain anything, or try to spend the money or do anything, unless you create a sense of desire to make them feel, say, you got to have this. Commercialization and commercials is supposed to create that sort of taste bugs and push a narrative to say, you look better, but you see, you got to have this, and you don't have this, you ain't worth nothing. And it goes back to self-esteem. Most of our desires, we go and spend money because by deep down, if we don't get, we feel our esteem is not going to be on an all-time high. Getting this, like you said, Dr. Maat, you said you got to have, because it's more than this. That is something that will fill you up, your esteem. Can we put that attire? It makes you feel special.
That's right.
Yeah,
like you feel
absolutely. Absolutely. It made me feel, brother, not to cut your wisdom, but it made me feel, I always say this, and I've actually put this on Facebook a few times. I said that Black people spend money to acquire symbols of wealth, or what we perceive as symbols of wealth, rather than spend money to actually become wealthy, right? And so when I spent that money, bro, like you said, it was kind of like, it was a self-esteem boost. You get what I'm saying? And it made me feel like I was wealthy because I could afford this. You get what I'm saying? I absolutely agree with you, brother.
And that's why it's important that we make sure that we teach our children what value is and what's really important. Because I can say that I'm lucky enough that I didn't grow up like most. Even though we had labels, we only had it if it was on sale. Like my mother she was very keen on economics and not just blowing money on bullshit. And she made sure she let us know that the richest people that you see, they don't look flashy like them broke people.
That's right.
Got on them regular ass shoes that they didn't have for about 2 years, some regular khakis, a $10 shirt, and a $15 jacket.
You're right.
Because see, they understand what value is. Value is not what's on your bag. That's irrelevant. What the hell is in your bank account?
That's right. That's right.
What do you have saved for your babies?
That's right.
I know so many Black people whose children look so fly. I'm talking about just beautiful, just always looking good. But they don't have no money saved for those kids. They aren't creating any wealth
Not at all.
children. Our children's wealth is what they wear.
That's right. I went to school with the Hyatts.
Okay, go ahead.
I went to school with the Hyatts, and you just like you said, Sister Lima. You know who are the Hyatt Regencies? I went to school with them. We went to the same school, and you're right. They dressed in plain clothes, none of all of that name brand stuff, and just like you said, Sister, the people who was broke was wearing all of that, wear the fashion stuff. But the Hyatts would come in raggedy jeans and like a t-shirt, like you said.
That's right, brother.
Think about also, brother. That's when you look at other nations, like let's say the nation Islam or Jews. They always come in a form of attire, a consistent uniform attire. So they don't invest the money on things that is frivolous.
Exactly.
Make no value. Unlike us in this society, to show value, you gotta spend what is your worth. And normally, if you sit in a struggle and you have to show off your wealth, then really, in actuality, you are actually broke. That's why they can easily keep fooling our children and us to keep saying, for you to, you know, be a something, you gotta show your worth, and it has to be an outer appearance instead of what you have, you hold and keep, and that has to change.
Thanks.
As economics get harder, you're not gonna have the money to go buy that famous HMO hoodie or all those things that most people say they don't want to buy, but they'll still go to HM anyway. But let's continue because time's muscles.
Okay, brother.
Good
Shopping
point.
malls in the New South Africa. Let's see. I didn't have any at this bottom section here. I just had on page 454. I started in the middle. As in the case of the proposed Harlem Mall discussed above, white South African entrepreneurs, after years of benign and malignant neglect of Black commercial needs, have now decided to atone for their past sins by returning to Black townships in order to more thoroughly exploit them in the name of the New South Africa. In typical white supremacist fashion, they make elaborate claims of helping African peoples while greedily helping themselves to their God-given and hard-earned resources. While claiming that they are meeting the commercial needs and advancing the economic development of African peoples, these white-owned corporate leviathans are in reality only concerned with attempting to satisfy their own insatiable appetites and advancing their own exclusive economic agendas.
Wow. So you're talking about, that was, that was, whew. Since I mean, sometimes when I read this, I don't know about you all, but I get angry. It's like,
me too.
It's like I go on an emotional roller coaster when I read Dr. Amos Wilson's work. You know, initially, sometimes I read it, I'm happy, like, wow, then sometimes I read it, I'm disappointed. Sometimes I'm frustrated. Sometimes I'm angry. But I know it's all a part of the process, sis. But just reading about how much they exploit us, it sickens my stomach. It really sickens my stomach. And some of us are conscious of this, but many of us aren't. You know what I mean? And anyway, so that's the whole purpose of the resurgence of the African mind. We gotta reclaim and reestablish, our culture and our consciousness. You know what I mean? And so it says a mall. Peace, brother M. Poole. You've been silent the entire time, brother.
I want to say what you were saying just now about the emotional roller coasters. Sometimes, and that's what I'm going through right now. Reading. And I was listening to what you all were saying, but because sometimes I get so pissed, and I try to channel it because I am passionate about educating our people. But at the same time, when I read what they've done and continue to do, I'm like, so sometimes I get tripped over my words. So I'm like, let me just fall back and let my heart and mind, let me get my eye, inside before I speak. But because Dr. Wilson, I'm telling you, the ancestors really just graced this brother. And so when you do become conscious and you read, like you said, there's so much that's going on inside. You know what I mean? But I want to go back to what Sister Lily was saying about the values. Just real quick, I'm not going to take a lot of time about the values. That is so true. And we try to enlighten our people. Like, look, you don't have to place all these values on. I even hate to mention the brother's name, but on a basketball shoe. Just because so-and-so's name is on it. You know what I mean? That doesn't bring value. You know what I'm saying? That's why I kind of like what Shaq did when he said, you know what, I'm going to market my sneaker in my brand in a lower market. You feel what I'm saying? So that families could afford it. He understood that. But these other cats, they take they brand and they put it $200, $300 for some sneakers. Really?
You're right, Impulse.
Yes, we do. We have to, retrain, if you will, our people on our value system. Dr. Akbar talks about the psychology of the slave and how the slave would see his master wearing, you know, the ties like the brother mentioned, or that overcoat. And so when they would go shopping on the weekend, when they were allowed to, whatever they did, they would wear the master's clothes. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They would strip off them slave clothes, and whatever the master handed down to them, they would wear that and go out like made them feel special. And I truly believe that was passed down to us somehow.
Yes,
that when we clothes, they feel like, you know.
But do you have the same problem? Do you have the same thing in like Baltimore? We have lines that's almost around the damn shopping center for people to buy Jordans when Jordans come out. Do they do that in Baltimore?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We have folks that sleep outside, Brother Travis. They'll sleep outside of the mall.
Yeah, y'all have the same thing. See, the thing is that it's still like Brother Impu talked about. You know, it isn't us. Even though Shaq had reduced the price of it, do you think people around the corner to buy Shaq shoes?
You're right.
People wouldn't buy his shoes, and I remember a lot of people saying, basically equating them to like knockoffs, you know, because they were so cheap, and it made them feel as if they were a knockoff somehow, or that they were impoverished if they paid less for a pair of sneakers.
That's right. That's right.
Do the panel remember the 1954, The Secret to Selling to the Negro?
Yeah, I saw that video.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's just that in that video, the person doing the narration, they made a point to say that the Negro would want things of supposed value. And this is exactly what we're talking about now. Even though the purpose of a shoe is to cover the foot and protect the foot from any outside particles so we can walk, but we would rather buy a shoe with a proposed value of $300 compared to one that's $25, and we keep more money in our pocket. And it's just that the point is, like Dr. Maat was making point as that we want the feel of buying something because it's expensive, i.e., make us feel more important.
Exactly.
You know, and it's one of those things that is it's no psychology, and we fell for the okie doke, as my uncle used to say.
Oh yeah.
If y'all remember, there was a movie documentary on YouTube that talked about our Spain power back 6 or 7 years ago, when they talk about how to sell to the Negro. It's that same concept that they run that still is in effect 60-something years later. You know, to make say, oh, it's to out your price. And, you know, some people say, well, I'll show you, and go spend more on a product that, you know, the way how they manufacture is very less, probably not even more than $1 that they spend to make it. It's all psychology games they run on our people. You know? That's why Amos, one of our, like any great psychologist, knows the game, and people gotta understand how this game works.
Absolutely.
Everybody's done the mental, but I'm gonna fall back for a bit.
No, absolutely, brother. I was just agreeing with you. I wasn't trying to cut your wisdom. I was agreeing. It's mental. It's mental. We got to deal with the conscious first, the consciousness, the conscious first.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's facts.
Absolutely.
Just a note. Was the this is just to talk about the H&M incident in Africa. Was it in South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw Soweto, South Africa, and it made me think of that. So I know that's the page we're on, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. And when I saw that, I was actually kind of like, I was appalled when I saw it. I mean, I get it. You know, I get it. You know, you're trying to vent your frustrations, and people vent their frustrations in different ways. But I think that it would be more effective to unite and to build and support our own economies.
Am I the only one feeling like, I'm sorry to cut your wisdom, sis, but am I the only one feeling like they're playing like motherfucking chess and we're playing Uno?
Absolutely.
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
It never fucking fails. Like, we always respond in the most typical, predictable, petty ways possible. We always respond in ways that enacts no type of change. What did that do? Who owns H&M? The white people. But who works at H&M? Black people. So who the fuck is coming in there cleaning up all that shit that y'all just tore up? Black people. Who are you hurting? Whenever you
in South Africa,
destroyed, they have insurance.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you hurting by tearing up their store? So they call you a monkey and you go act like a motherfucking monkey. You go validate what the fuck they said, and somehow this is looked at as revolutionary. You niggas, excuse me, you people are delusional. That shit was weak as fuck and it was crass as hell.
The beautiful thing about this chapter,
I felt the same way during, I don't know if you guys saw it, but when Freddie Gray got murdered by six Baltimore City police officers. I know we call it an uprising. It was a lot going on, but they were like burning stores and looting stores and all of that. You know, these places, like you said, Sister Lima, they have insurance. So after you burned up the store, after you looted the store, nothing has changed. So paid out a bunch of money and nothing's changed. It was business as usual 30 days after.
Right. And to piggyback on that point, think about this young man or whoever was in South Africa trashing the store. Just like if you go back to Baltimore with the young man who broke the police officers, broke the windshield of someone's car. Let's put the parallel side by side. He got caught. He turned himself in. He had a $500,000 bail.
Exactly.
And family could not afford. Now let's fast forward to the South Africa when this person trashed the store. If they get locked up, who's going to get them out? Now you locked up in the system. It benefited nothing. Nope. And the beautiful thing about this chapter is that Barbara Wilson breaks down exactly how they take over our neighborhood, and shows us step by step how they get the funding, how they bring the Trojan Horse Company in to suck it out. Right. He's telling us the power structure. And and Sister Lima made a perfect point. She hit the nail on the head once again. Guess what happens? We looking stupid because we go and destroy the store instead of destroying the power structure.
And to think about this, when I think about, back when the Montgomery bus boycott, let me turn my mic off. Let me turn my video so people can see. I noticed that our people, they made a dedicated commitment for almost a whole year and a few days. They said, we're not going to spend the money, period. And within a period of time, eventually bankrupt them.
That's right.
Today, it's going to be very challenging now to bankrupt a lot of these corporations because they've been so strong for decades. It's going to take a longer stint. Because like I said, insurance will save you. When you look at an average Black person, they don't got the simple insurance besides a car insurance, if they're lucky to get, if they even got that on their life. So insurance protects people. So people got to really look at that and evaluate that very clearly. You know what I'm saying? To destroy somebody's property, then they'll say, okay, you do that. When a few weeks or months, we're going back in operation like it's nothing. You go back in there and spend your money for nothing. So we got to reevaluate.
Basically, and it's not even about how they view us for doing that, because who cares? Because they're going to view us negatively no matter what we do. It's about what was the point. What did you accomplish? Nothing.
Nothing at all.
And Brother P, that's why I love when you said that we destroyed the store, but not the power structure.
Exactly.
So that was very powerful.
It was very powerful.
That was very powerful. And that's why we had to upgrade our thinking. Fuck boycott. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm tired of boycotting. Let's just replace.
Exactly.
Replace. Don't boycott. Replace.
Simple. That's simple.
Replace. Absolutely. So, sis, let's summarize this. It says a mall comes to a Black township. Where are we, sis?
The mall in Soweto. Yeah, so basically he's just talking about how the white people came in and capitalized in Soweto, and they came and built after apartheid ended and everything like that, and they came in and built the mega mall or whatever. After when of course they wouldn't even let Black people even own any type of businesses or anything like that. And then once apartheid and all that ended, they came and built their little shopping center in there. So of course they can continue to capitalize.
So this formula is global. That's what this is telling me.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Exactly. It's giving us an example to show us that it happens everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in the African-American community, but in the Pan-African community.
Exactly. So I had highlighted the last paragraph on 455. Sanlam Properties is a subsidiary of South Africa's second largest insurance company, the Sanlam Group, the country's largest developer of shopping centers. Here, as in the African-American case, where after having abandoned or ignored the Black communities when it suited their economic and political purposes to do so, giant white capitalistic enterprises return to or enter those communities to exploit them all the more. The return or entry of these gluttonous entrepreneurs is obviously self-serving in that they demonstrate little concern for the true economic well-being and self-determination of the Black community. Their entry into Black township markets merely reflects their search for new markets after having saturated their traditional white markets. It also reflects that unrelenting intention to economically and politically dominate African peoples all over the globe with impunity.
Wow.
Powerful, sis. Let's keep it moving, sis, because it's 8:24, and I know how you can keep it.
I just highlighted a couple things. In the first paragraph, just as whites in America and whites in South Africa profited from apartheid, the legal racial segregation of Blacks, they now profit from so-called racial equality, the legal desegregation of Blacks. The amount and rates of profits that whites gain under desegregation are even greater than under segregation. In either case, Blacks were and continue to be relatively poor and dependent, as well as politically powerless. Second paragraph, in the middle, in the like manner to the East Harlem project discussed above, Sanlam and other white entrepreneurs make full use of Black organizations to run political interference and establishing white-owned and controlled commercial projects. Thus, they put a Black face on white power.
Hold up, sis. Hold up. I just want to stop you right there. I thought about that, and Brother Travis and Tawola and Impu could tell me. Remember Jay-Z started getting, remember when he wanted to build that new stadium, I believe, in Brooklyn, and they started getting some pushback from it. And then they said, no, Jay-Z is part owner. And come to find out, Jay-Z owned like 0.00001% on it, right? And so that's when Black folks said, oh, okay, you can go ahead and build the stadium because now we see that one of us own a piece of that. When in actuality, they said Jay-Z only owned a smidget of that stadium. But what they did was they smacked his face on it and we sat back. And so I just thought about that, sis, when you said that they put a Black face on white power formula for a long time. And like you said, Brother T, Baba is really teaching us how this game works. That's right. And how we get got. Go ahead, sis. I'm sorry. I just thought about that. That came to mind as soon as you read that line.
That's a good point, though, Queen. Okay, what else did I have here? Oh, yeah. So he's talking about Sanlam, and he's talking about his plans. And it said that 49% of the project is shares to local investors. Note that it did not offer to sell 49% of Sanlam to Black investors. Sanlam has permitted 3 small Black-owned businesses to occupy spaces in its new 68-store mall. So out of 68 stores, Black people are lucky enough to have 3. Isn't that nice? That's so nice. It shouldn't have. The top of 457. The promise of jobs in return for the right to greedily exploit the Black community is business as usual for white entrepreneurs and white political economic establishment whose true intention is to maintain Blacks as servants, wage earners, and general subordinates, not owners and managers in their own neighborhoods and nations. Some prominent, yes?
I just got to add this, Brother Tawola. Do you remember when years ago in Maryland, when they wanted to bring casinos into Maryland, sis, that's what they told us. We're going to bring these casinos into Maryland. It's going to create jobs, and we're going to take some of those profits, and we're going to invest, and we're going to invest in the in the schools. So this is what they told us. And I mean, you guys can read this online. They said, if you let us come into these impoverished neighborhoods, build casinos in Maryland and all of that, we're going to hire people. And not only are we going to hire you, we're going to use we're going to invest some of our profits into the Baltimore City public school system. Sis, you and our Facebook friends saw like last week how I posted a video clip of how in Baltimore City, these kids don't have heat. It's been 9 degrees outside, and these children are going to school without heat. As a matter of fact, that Baltimore City is set to close 16 schools, and they've already closed several of the schools, right? But you were saying that you were promising us jobs, and you were promising us better facilities, better educational facilities for our babies, and you never made good on your promise. So this is the game they play. They promise these jobs, right? In return, it says in return for the right to greedily exploit our community, and then they don't follow through. So anyway, I just thought about that while you were reading. I'm sorry. I just wanted
they did the same thing in Detroit, and they said how they was going to put the money into the proceeds into the public schools in Detroit, and how they were going to revitalize the public school system and make sure the kids have the proper equipment and all of that. And what happens with that is that you have a petty bourgeois blacks who really govern most cities, and what they do is pay them off, and none of that money actually ever funnels into the black community.
That's right.
That goes into the petty bourgeois.
Right.
So you got a black face. You got a black face with white power. Go ahead.
That's right. That's right. That's what happens.
Okay, family. Bottom of 457. Typically, with last paragraph, typically with the legal approval of the government and the support of traditional white racist social practices, white entrepreneurs and financial institutions deny equal quality goods and services as well as credit and capital to the black community during long periods of white racist political and economic oppression of blacks, sometimes lasting for centuries, followed by continued denial of finance, credit, training, and economic opportunities to blacks during periods of so-called black political liberation and independence. Any attempt on the part of blacks to even the entrepreneurial playing field by asking and demanding that compensatory considerations, preferences, and advantages be awarded them for past racist practices in favor of whites is loudly hooted down by conservative whites and ignorant self-serving blacks as reverse racism. This is an interesting response in light of the obvious fact that reverse racism would be a just solution to forward racism, which permitted whites to gain almost irreversible advantages over blacks. Okay, justice, as well as the current and future economic well-being of the black community, require that black peoples own and control their community and national markets, and not act as mere workers and consumers in them. Blacks, like any other ethnic group and nation, should be the first to profit and benefit from their markets and resources. To do otherwise would be tantamount to willfully giving away the commonwealth of the group to others and consequently impoverishing themselves, as well as denying their future generations the right to inherit the God-given traditional and accumulated wealth of their ancestors. Okay, page 459, bottom paragraph. Consequently, while prior forms of white domination and exploitation of blacks may have ceased and desisted, the economic injustices and inequalities they impose continue unabated. The legal prohibition of further injustices does not necessarily mean that the injurious effects of past injustices no longer persist and do not require rectification. Justice requires not only the ceasing and desisting of injustice, but also requires either punishment or reparation for injuries and damages inflicted for prior wrongdoing. The essence of injustice is the redistribution of gains earned through the perpetration of injustice. If restitution is not made and reparations not instituted to compensate for prior injustices, those injustices are in effect rewarded, and the benefits such rewards conferred on the perpetrators of injustice will continue to draw interest to be reinvested and to be passed on to their children, who will use their inherited advantages to continue to exploit the children of the victims of the injustice of their ancestors. Consequently, injustice and equality will be maintained across the generations, as will their deleterious social, economic, and political outcomes. Wow. Oh my. Heavy.
Yeah, reread that. Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was deep.
That was very deep. That was extremely deep. They just passing it.
That's right. So therefore, it is not enough that blacks forgive whites their past sins, that they merely forget the past, that they forgive and forget. It is not enough that whites cease and desist their prior injustices and racial discriminatory practices while they retain all the advantages those prior injustices and practices afford them. For even under a colorblind political and economic regime, they will use their previously accumulated and unredistributed wealth and power to continue to invest to their advantage and to disadvantage of blacks. Next paragraph in the middle. It is imperative that if blacks are to acquire true equality and power relative to whites, then they must demand and get reparations from whites, or that whites, through committed long-term affirmative action, compensate them for their losses due to their prior oppression by whites. If this cannot be accomplished, then it is necessary that blacks, by any means necessary, prevent whites from further investing in their territories where blacks themselves are not included as equal or predominant partners, and where blacks are not the primary beneficiaries of such white investment. Moreover, blacks should raise whatever resources they have at their disposal to gain ownership and control over their own resources and the resources of others, so as to provide for and empower themselves to achieve self-sufficiency and self-determination.
Wow.
Well, we both said that at the same time.
Baba said that. Crime, family instability, social disorganization, poverty, and disease in the black community are all related to the absence of black ownership of important and vital resources. Those problems will be solved through the black ownership and equitable distribution of the black commonwealth and through the black communities empowering itself relative to other communities to protect and advance its interests. This cannot happen if other communities own and control all that is vital to the black community, no matter how convenient or inexpensive to black consumers. Ultimately, the convenience provided by such arrangements will become too inconvenient, and the cheap prices they afford will become too much to pay.
Like, I wish I had a button, sis, like, you know, like, so as soon as you finish reading that, like, just you heard the bomb sounds go off. I need to invest in that tool, because I know Side does that a lot. Side, if you're listening, I'm biting, but I want to definitely.
I never didn't start that. It was Smack.
Oh, it was Smack
from the DVD.
Oh man, that was powerful. All right, y'all. So let's keep it moving. I know they're getting ready to get into supermarket chains. We had a lot of those in Baltimore. In fact, the Jews own a lot of the supermarkets in Baltimore. We had a supermarket in Baltimore called Food Lion, and there was another one called Food King. Bro, help me out. There was a few of them. You had Safeway.
Safeway is what Barbara Wilson mentioned earlier in the chapter. Part of the organization to help infiltrate the communities. So like you have Safeway, you have Giants, you have Food Line, you have Shoppers, you have Mars.
So look at this. It says inner city shopping malls. One of the many harmful myths about inner city communities is that they're generally low average income makes them unprofitable locally or for retail and other investments. Even when this myth is belied by the heavy retail investment in these communities by immigrant merchants such as Koreans, Indians, Arabs, Hispanics, etc., it has inhibited investments in these areas by prominent white retailers and, more important, by would-be black retailers. In fact, many mainstream retailers, for example, major supermarkets, have steadily withdrawn from the intercities over the past 2 decades. During this time, major supermarket chains and other major retailers have generally severely restricted business activities or refused to do business in low-income inner city neighborhoods. So he talks about in supermarkets. He's talking about A&P. We don't have an A&P in Baltimore, but I'm pretty sure it's the same thing applies. But it says supermarket chains such as A&P, when they have not withdrawn from inner city markets have refused to invest further in them, generally claiming that the poverty of their residents and the high cost of security make investing in doing business in them risky undertakings. This has led to a 2-tier marketing system where large supermarket and other retail chains serve the predominantly white suburbs and wealthy white inner city enclaves and ignore predominantly black suburbs and inner city neighborhoods. This system, in effect, has devalued the dollars of black consumers. That is, black consumer dollars by less than white consumer dollars. This is the consequence of the fact that the absence of convenient large discount outlets in the inner cities force Black consumers to shop in overpriced, overstocked, and outdated small stores. And that's a fact. That's a
Yes.
fact. Like I remember, being a young kid and going to the corner store where these Asians were. They lived down the street from my grandmother. And I mean, you go there and you look at the candy that they're selling, the price sky high. You go to the supermarket, you're paying like half of that.
Exactly.
And like it's ridiculous. Brother Impo, did you want to add something? I heard you say something, brother.
I did. I actually got into a heated discussion with a Walmart manager in our neighborhood, our inner city neighborhood here, because if you go into there, they have, I don't know how it is in you all's neighborhood, but the shelves are jacked. I mean, it's just not what it is in, like, if you go up into the suburbs. You go into the suburbs, into their Walmart, and they have stuff that you're like, man, what? Y'all sell this? You know? So I'm like, why? And he was like, well, people in the city they wouldn't spend the money on that. I'm like, where y'all doing y'all studies at? Obviously, the person I was talking to, he wasn't the person I should have been talking to. But point being that, they sell us short as if we don't want the best. You know what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't spend money on something for ourselves or for our children or for our home. Right. So we're not going to put this much in this store. If they really want something, they got to come out, they got to go up this way to get that. And it's just the whole mindset of it. And I see it over and over again. We have stores here called, I don't know, is Dollar Tree in your areas?
Yeah.
Okay. Family Dollars and Dollar Generals and whatnot. And they do the same thing in our hoods here. But if you go out the way, like 5 miles, 10 miles, and it's a whole different culture. Even to the cleaning of the stores, the outside of the stores. And I've spoken to the managers of those stores too, brothers and sisters. I'm like, look, just because you in the hood, I won't get off the subject, don't mean that your garbage cans got to be overflowing and cigarette butts all over the place. Exactly. I mean, you go to stores, the white folks out there sweeping and spraying it down with power hoses. I mean, the property is immaculate, but when it comes to our areas, our supermarkets is just jacked up. And I think this is what Dr. Leva Wilson is talking about here with our supermarkets and whatnot. I hope I didn't get off task here.
No, you didn't, actually.
Facts.
Me and my husband, since you mentioned it, we were having this conversation not too long ago because we were talking about the CVS that's not too far from the house. And sometime around when we had the hurricane, if I'm not mistaken, that was what, family, October? Maybe November, something like that, when that big hurricane came through. It was something like that. I think it was October. So someone had broke into a couple of stores and they broke into the CVS and they like busted out the front door and the windows. So it was boarded up. But, I assumed that it would just be boarded up for a few days, a week tops. That, they just got it fixed maybe two weeks ago.
Wow. You got to be kidding me.
And this is a CVS, family. CVS.
Sounds about right.
But if it was in a predominantly white area, they wouldn't allow that. So I say this to say that to a certain extent, we are to blame for how our communities look because we don't have a sense of demand for upkeep. We don't demand business owners to keep their businesses up to par, and we continue to patronize. So we'll talk junk about them in this raggedy Wendy's, but we're going to keep going there to eat. So white people, on the other hand, they're not going to let that fly. You're not going to have a raggedy ass restaurant in their community. They're going to make you either fix it or they're going to get it shut down.
Hey,
but we have a complacent mindset when it comes to things like that.
You see,
about it. And you look at people in our community, at like the CVS, not that far from where I lived at the time as well, took a long time since the Baltimore riots to get back up and running. This is not even a storm. It took 1 year to bring it back. Now think about that. CVS was the hub for all of the elderly to get their prescription medication. And you made a perfect point, Sister Lima, that if it wasn't another in a white neighborhood, it would have been up and running right away, just because of that one point. You know, but that tells you about the association, the taxpayers. They demand their politicians and to get on it to make sure that thing is up and running. And we have to do the same thing. We have to demand more about business, especially if they're sucking us dry in our neighborhoods.
Exactly.
I see when the manager had the nerve to say, he said, well, listen, if he said, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but you're going to have to write a letter to, the corporate office and this and that, which I get and don't have a problem doing. But my one letter isn't going to make a difference. It's almost, this is how sad the situation is. It's almost like we have to, in our area, I would have to canvass the community, the neighborhoods to say, look, this is what I'm planning to do. We need to do to hold these companies accountable. And, if we have to stop, like the brother said earlier, go back to the 60s and stop spending money, because one way to hurt white folk is in their pocketbook. Then, it'll get them started, but okay, we need to make some major changes as far as this and that. But that's how I don't think enough of us are, again, it goes back to the value system, or that, our values are so low that we just allow anything. The standard is so low that we allow this in our community. And that's not, it shouldn't be the case. I'm human just like you are. When I come into a store and I'm spending my dollar, I want the floors to be mopped. I shouldn't see crap everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But I think some of us are we've become so complacent in our communities that it's like, okay, whatever, this is what we should expect. Hell no, you shouldn't expect that.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe it's a little bit of OCD kicking in when I see crap everywhere, but at the same time, there's a standard of excellence, a spirit of excellence that we should have.
Especially when you have a business. I mean, this is a business. Like, all of this stuff should go without saying. Like, just because you're not serving the food doesn't mean that your business should be dirty. It should. I mean, because that's a representation of how you feel about your customers. Because if I have a business, I want it to look as best as possible, because I want my customers to feel good about spending their money here. I don't want them to feel like I have to spend my money here because it's the closest store, but they really don't want to come in there.
True.
All right, well, let's move on, family, because y'all know we'll get to talking. Where we stop at?
I think it was the bottom of 461. Discount store.
Yeah, we were right here at the bottom of page 461, where it says discount stores, outlet malls, and warehouse clubs.
Oh, okay.
Inexpensive goods may be purchased have largely bypassed inner city communities. Then he goes on to talk, quote from the Wall Street Journal, says the gap between prices paid by the rich and poor appears to be widening. The income gap is growing. In 1991, the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs found that grocery neighborhoods, listen to this, pay 8.8% more, okay, or 350 more a year more than shoppers in middle-class areas. All right. So just basically what we're saying, sis, I mean, he talked about that earlier, how, people in these inner city neighborhoods pay more than the folks in the white areas. So he gives some more examples. He said in a spot check of 5 grocery items in 1991, staff members of the Chicago City Council found that the poor paid 18% more than their middle-class counterparts. A 1968 Federal Trade Commission study demonstrated that furniture and appliances cost an average of 52% more in the inner city of Washington, D.C. suburbs. We have no reason to believe that this difference has diminished significantly since that time. It is of interest to note that studies made by industry trade groups have found that since 1970, Boston has lost about 2/3 of its supermarkets, Chicago about half, and Los Angeles more than 1/3. A trade group in New York City Resource Center reported that inner city as much as 400 to 1,000 per year traveling to supermarkets by taxis or mass transportation. Because in a lot of these neighborhoods, man, you might have one supermarket And I'm trying to think of the radius, Brother T. You know, you might have like one supermarket within, what would you say, brother, about a couple of miles?
Yeah, if you think about it, one supermarket maybe every 5 miles. Just think about it in Baltimore. You know, that's how it is. And remember, in certain parts of Baltimore, before we can go to the Gucci Giants and stuff, we had places called Giants family, and you had Stop Shop and Save, and Stop Shop and Save was Black owned, and they serviced our neighborhoods until we got too big for Stop Shop and Save, and we wanted to go to the Gucci Giants. So those Giants were taken over. That was the next biggest super chain in our neighborhood, and that's before the Safeways came and the other onslaught of supermarkets.
Right.
All right. Family, let's push on now.
Let's go, sis. We got about 5 more pages and like 12 more minutes. Let's go, sis.
Well, I didn't. Okay, we on 462 now. I just noted a couple things. I said in 1968 that the Federal Trade Commission demonstrated that furniture and appliances cost 52% more. I don't know if you just read that. I feel you might have did.
Yes.
Middle of the page, the poor are confiscated tax because of their low income status in America. Poor consumers who make purchases via catalog payments may pay annual. Did you read that too?
No, sis.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm tired. Bank rates, bank charges their more affluent counterparts of credit purchases. However, this trend may be reversed as major retailers discover that while incomes in many, but by no means all, inner city neighborhoods are lower than in other neighborhoods. But as he reiterated that the population density increases their buying power. Then he gives a Fulton Mall example, which is this in Brooklyn. And he just talks about the condition of the mall. He's saying that the mall is kind of run down, that it has good capability, good possibilities to make good money, but it's not properly taken care of, as opposed to if it was in a better area. Compared to the major mall, they said that it makes about $200 per square feet, so it actually doesn't make too much cheaper than the bigger malls. But let me see here. It's in a black area. So they were trying to say that because it's located in a black area, that this is why it's not doing as well, and this is also why it's unkempt, which just further validates what we were just talking about.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much all I had. I didn't really have much highlighted. I was just trying to summarize, really. But that's all I had on that page. And then I moved on to the next section on 464. If anybody want to add anything, I'll move on.
No, sis, please continue, my sister.
Okay, 464, the role of finance in the African-American market economy. The main reason the Black community is commercially and politically exploited by aliens is that it lacks a financial system which provides for its self-sustained and self-financed development. Okay.
That's a mouthful right there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on where we are here. The following discussion closely follows the outline of the article by William Hinkle. And blah, 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 top of 465. The African-American community is a third world country in the United States. I just had it highlighted, and Baba says that a lot, but he's true.
Right,
we are a community within itself. We are our own little country here in America. Next paragraph. What the community lacks is a domestically based financial sector which functions to collect its monetary and savings resources and transform them into working capital used to finance the development of Black-owned and controlled commercial, economic, and cultural establishments. The major reason alien and white communities are able to fund their own internal economic development, as well as take advantage of economic opportunities which exist outside their communities, is because they have developed traditional or formal systems of finance which collect and transform their monetary and socioeconomic resources into investment capital. At this time, the African-American community does not possess a formal or informal banking system capable of constructing and sustaining a domestic money market system based on credit and refinancing institutions. Bottom paragraph, banking systems markedly increase capital formation through their unparalleled capacity to accumulate in a select number of places a sizable amount of monetary resources. A functioning banking financial sector promotes the growth of the entrepreneurial sector by its capacity to increase the supply of capital and credit. through the centralization of its monetary reserves in the hands of its financial and cultural institutions, which will in turn utilize these reserves to expand the money supply, the Black community can exert a powerful force behind the process of nation building and the necessary building of the Pan-African economic system. A growing network of Black-owned and controlled financial institutions which are capable of dispersing increasing quantities of money in credit contracts between Black savers and investors and Black-owned and controlled entrepreneurial sectors, as well as among individual consumers to finance the growing exchange of goods and services, will permit the Black community itself to generate the market forces necessary to achieve its economic growth and development. So Baba is basically saying in so many words that we need to create a banking system, a system in which we all pool our resources together and we use that to grow businesses and create a network of all Black-owned controlled businesses and financial institutions.
Sister Lily, you did an excellent job in summing that up. That from 64 to 66, excellent job. Barbara Wilson, he made a point on page 465, just before the last paragraph, of how small banks give out so few loans. He says the paucity of Black-owned banks were savings and receipts. Basically, Black consumers weren't receiving anything, and we had to create, like you said, a mechanism from the banks to the Blacks to save and want things for their communities. So because we don't have that mechanism created, we can't really tie in that Black bank with anything that's going to be substantial for us to move and make an impact in our communities. We can put money in the Black bank, but not much money, if I said that correctly, not much money will leave that bank if we don't have the mechanism to create something impactful for our community. So I wanted that to be said too, because I've seen that point that we have to bank Black, and we do have to bank Black, but we also have to create that mechanism, that as he said, that system mechanism that transfer the money from the bank and combine the Black brothers and sisters who save, so we can build something impactful for our community. So I just wanted to bring that point, Sister Leland.
Indeed. All right.
So Brother T, what mechanism would you suggest?
Well, I don't have to suggest.
I was reading this. I knew he was going to speak on this issue, but what mechanism or mechanisms would you suggest? Well, I'm not sure. I didn't read forward, so I'm not sure.
The beautiful thing about it, Barbara Wilson told us what we need to do right here. I just wanted to bring the point. He said we have to create that systematic mechanism by, this means that the community must develop an adequate network of banks, investment banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and other financial systems which mediate between Black savers and borrowers to expand the money supply available for economic development. He gave us the pieces that we have to put in: pension funds.
So we have to trust one another.
Sorry?
We have to trust one another.
Trust one another, and also realize what institutions we have to combine with that Harbor Bank, with that other Black bank, and understand he giving us the tools. We may never knew the tools, but these are the investment vehicles that we need to start to look into in order to build our communities.
Right. Right. I said that on purpose, because I think that, we talk about this system that we need to create, and we do need to do that. I think one of the barriers is, we've been coaxed into not trusting one another. If I give my money to Dr. Maat or whoever, it's not going to pan out. You know what I'm saying? It's just in the community. I don't know if it's out there in Baltimore, but it definitely happens in PA. We have to get over that hurdle. Like, if you know what,
but these people comes from understanding what exactly we have to do. And
exactly,
and Bobby Wilson has basically put in the pieces in each of these chapters if we had something, we vaguely knew something about the issue, he tells us exactly how the power structure put it together and what we have to do to combat it. So I mean,
Right.
that's why I love this page. And like that Sister Alima went from that page and she tied it in. But that was the missing point of the banks, how we have to go to our banks, and the reason why people don't trust the banks is because we're not using them correctly and taking that resources to build our neighborhoods.
Exactly. And what I meant by that is like seeing the bigger picture. You know, with our people, you literally have to get in their face and say, look, this is the bigger picture. You know, it may not even happen in your lifetime, but the bigger picture is that we're creating, you know, cities communities and jobs and resources for our people. You know what I'm saying? But we have to start somewhere, you know.
The one thing that we fail to realize, and Sister Alima, Dr. Maat read it in the previous chapter pages. We are a third world citizens. We are a third world country, and a lot of Africans do not want to see themselves as third world and the richest nation on the land. So if we don't start looking at ourselves, hey, we need to band together and put our resources together. We don't see ourselves because some of us still making money. As Dr. Maat was saying earlier, when she was making that cake, she felt like, hey, I can get what I want. We have a lot of brothers and sisters still believing, hey, I ain't poor, I ain't broke. No, if we can't affect our communities and build them up with our resources, then hey, we're viewed as a third world country and the richest nation in the world.
Great point. Thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. All right, family. Moving on. Since the capital market, the system of banks, financial institutions, and other financial arrangements decide by means of credit, allotment, interest charges, who gets capital for which project and under what terms, Black ownership and control of this market would permit the Black community to allot credit in its own economic interests. A Black-controlled financial system would permit the Black community to be the primary regulator of its own investment priorities, projects, and preferred instruments. The failure of the Black community is to establish its own domestic, formal, and informal banking and financial systems and schemes for financing its own economic growth. Has the following consequences. Then there's the rest is just the bullets. Sis, you want to read the bullets?
Yes, sis. I would love to read the bullets. Like we just take one. You know how we do, just one by one.
All right. Everybody read two apiece. The large consumer buying some 400 billion in productive capacity, some 1 trillion of the community, cannot be collected and converted by the community into investment and consumer credit and made available to its entrepreneurial enterprises and consumers for fueling economic growth, the community's quality of life. The discrepancy between the demand for funds for needed investments and consumptions in the African American community and the inadequate supply of intracommunal funds compels Black entrepreneurs and consumers to borrow or import larger amounts of capital than would be otherwise required from outside resources. Consequently, credit that could be produced within the community must be provided by outsiders. This leads to the chronic over-indebtedness of Black consumers, leading to the continuing fight of community capital into the coffers of outside business and financial establishments, as well as the chronic underfunding of Black-owned and controlled enterprises, leading to Black economic underdevelopment with its attendant social problems. Brother Travis?
Okay. Hello? Okay. To quote Hankel, the recourse to foreign banking and credit markets instead of domestic resources and facilities, however, are weak, only worsens the illness instead of curing it. The development of an efficient financial sector in the Black community through the expansion of Black-owned banks, credit unions, cooperatives, underwriting institutions, informal credit associations, and the like will facilitate the rapid increase in Black-controlled capital formation, real income, and employment. By these and controlled by outside financial and social political institutions. By these means, the Black community can avoid the erroneous indebtedness to and control the outside financial and social political institutions. The development in the Black community of financial institutions which can effectively counter those of the white community can realistically achieve only if the Black community perceives, organizes, and behaves itself as an African nation, yes, within the nation. And that nation fully commits itself to its liberation from white domination through its active reclamation of the African identity and consciousness.
Black power, powerful, man.
That's it.
Black power right there.
That's it.
Yes.
I'm on page 468. More U.S. adults are trying to start new businesses than are training children or getting married. One person in 25 is actively involved in trying to start a new business. More than 7 million people a year are trying to start more than 3 million new businesses. Only about 1/3 of nascent entrepreneurs, those actively trying to start a business, go it alone. Only 2/3 of new entrepreneurs include 2 or more persons. The average size of a startup team is about 2.2 people. Next, someone.
More than 2/3.
Okay, about to say, come on now.
More than 2/3 of those trying to get a business started have full-time or part-time jobs or are running another business. Most only devote full-time efforts to the new venture after it is truly up and going. Fewer than 10% of those starting the business are unemployed at the time. Wow. Thus, it appears that new entrepreneurs are not necessarily great risk takers. Recent immigrants, current popular media images notwithstanding, are not the major force in new ventures. About 50% of those trying to start businesses have resided in their country for more than 15 years. About 80% of new entrepreneurs have resided in their country for more than 5 years. Almost all entrepreneurs trying to start a new business are high school graduates. College or graduate work does not increase participation. Most earn household incomes above the poverty level and are in their middle years, between 30 and 50 years old. Thus, it appears that most entrepreneurs are not your typical social maverick.
About twice as many men are likely to start business as are women. Women comprise about 1/3 of those starting new business. Though their role in starting new enterprises has increased very substantially in the past several decades, they are still a minority. Personal judgments about a specific location rather than feeling or knowledge about the goodness or badness of the general business climate seem more important in determining whether or not an entrepreneur will start a new venture. In fact, those who had started a new business in the Wisconsin sample were the most negative about state entrepreneurial climate. Those trying to start a new venture were neutral. Let me finish.
All right, and I'll read the last one. Educational attainments, length of residence, ages, and household income appears to be the primary factors lending in to businesses, startups. Cultural traits or background seems to play a lesser role than a generally thought. Once the factors cited above are considered, there is little difference among ethnic groups: Native American, Asian American, African American, and Hispanics. The findings may be artifact of the small population samples used in the study of this variable. And that's the end of chapter 19.
All right, family. So that was another powerful discussion, man. And I mean, you know, with Dr. Amos Wilson, I remember when Sister Alima and I first started this book club, you know, I was saying, Sister, you know, we could, go through each chapter within 1 hour. And Sister Alima said, Dr. Maat, I don't think so. She said, we're going to need more than an hour to comb through this work. And she was 100% correctly, because we're not just reading Blueprint for Black Power. We are studying Blueprint for Black Power with the objective to apply the Blueprint for Black Power, and that takes time. It takes time, to comb through these ideas and concepts of our great ancestor, Dr. Amos Wilson. So this was a wonderful show. I'd like to thank Brother Travis, Brother Tawola, Brother Impuharu. And I say Brother Everett on the screen. It says Brother Chaos. But Brother Everett for joining us. And I also want to thank you, brothers. When Sister Alima and I started this endeavor, we had no idea. See how the ancestors work? We had no idea that we would be joined by another dedicated group of, other dedicated Africans who said, look, I will take time out of my Sunday, time out of my life, time out of my family to make sure that I'm a part of these discussions, week after week. So I just want to take this time, Brother Impuharu, Brother Tawola, Brother Travis, Brother Everett, to really thank you guys. And especially the ones who came, from the beginning, folks that have been on from the beginning. If Sister Camille was on here, I would also, thank her. We have a dedicated group of African people, and everyone on this panel has families. We all have families. We all have responsibilities, but we make a conscious effort to be here week after week, Sunday after Sunday. So I give thanks for you lending your time, your energy, and most importantly, your mind to the panel and to the viewers. Thank you for joining us. Does anyone have any closing words?
1 second. I would say this. Let me switch this. As y'all notice, today is the 23rd anniversary of Baba Amos Wilson's transition. I looked it up on Wikipedia. And I know today that we will read a chapter. Ain't that something?
Wow, 23rd anniversary.
23rd anniversary transition. Yeah. And I was going to reveal this in the show, but I decided to the end.
Oh, wow. He transit. Hold on. Let me
transition today. Mm-hmm.
Yes. They say, yep. I'm looking at the editor's note. Dr. Amos Wilson joined the Pantheon of Ancestors on Saturday, January the 14th, 1995. Oh my goodness.
Ain't that powerful?
That is.
Powerful.
Yes. Look, and we're building on his work that he left us. Ashe. Y'all gonna make me pour some libation. I gotta pour libation. Brother T, where's your libation cup, brother?
That's downstairs.
Oh, man. I'm like, man, are you on your computer or
I'm
on the phone?
Computer.
The Impuharu got it. Let's pour libation. We gotta pour libation.
Okay.
Wait, my wife could get mad about this carpet, but hey, this is for Dr. Wilson, Baba Wilson. Yes.
Ashe.
Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up, brother.
Oh yeah, I posted.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. I was when I was looking through the dates, and I was saying, while we're going through this, let me see when is this man transition. And I was looking through the calendar. I said, ain't this something? It's gonna come up this Sunday. Mm-hmm. Perfect timing. And while we read it, we just said we did honors and dedication since he transitioned from the world back in 1995. And after 23 years since he's been gone, his work still lives on through enough books and people that dedicate his work. And one thing to note, that this blueprint right here, that is not just for us to read, but for everybody that's young, under age 20 or 18, that's gonna go back to this archives, and they're gonna follow this blueprint very well. And so this is a group effort. For those who apply or those who think of applying something, they should take a look at this and really just hone onto it, and just analyze everything. Not only what happened back then, but even now affects us today. That everything works in serving. And nothing is for loss or say it can't be applied. Everything can be applied. It's how you go about it.
Absolutely. And I just, I'm thinking about all of the ancestors that transition around this time. It seems like from the end of December to the beginning of January, either it's a birthday or the day that they transition. We had Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, we had Dr. Amos Wilson. I feel the birthday of Dr. Khalid Muhammad a few days ago.
Frances Cress Wilson.
She transitioned around this time. I mean, a lot of our ancestors transition. I don't know what it is, but from the end of December to the second week in January, a lot of them made their transition to Duat or into the ancestral realm. realm. But all right, so we getting ready to close out, family. We love you. Join us. Hey, Sister Alima, before we close out, do you have any more? Do you have any last words, sis? I know your mic is on mute, but do you have any last words, Sister Alima?
No, not really. If you ain't got your copy of Perceptions of Misplaced African Volume 1, you ain't nothing. But seriously though, family, make sure y'all go to BlackPantherSurror.com. Check out BlackPantherSurror.com. Go to Ed Anime Productions. Go to LilyLaPoeteSpeaks.com. Go to Pantherware website. Check it out, family. Check out some of those sites. Support your family. Support your family. That's it. Peace and power. Have a good night.
Peace and power.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, King.
I was watching a video. Did you do a video Friday, a show Friday with Sonetta TV?
Oh no, brother. We did that probably like a week ago, maybe like a week and a half ago.
Okay. I got halfway through it because I wasn't sure if we were going to have a show tonight or not. And I was actually watching that. I just want to encourage the panel, if you have time tonight, because as soon as I get off, I'm going to watch that. That is powerful. What she was doing with Sonetta and Brother Jabari.
Yes. And
yeah, I watched it. I watched it. It was very
powerful. Yes.
I gotta probably get content.
I gotta tell y'all, I made one mistake. I gotta tell you, I made one mistake, and I'll probably go back on his platform in another week or two, just to clear it up. Because again, none of us are beyond reproach. And you know what I mean? So if you make an error, you say, hey, this is, what I made an error. Towards at the end of the discussion, I believe around the 1 hour and 34-minute mark, somewhere around there, I pull out civilization or barbarism, and I discussed a chart. I believe that it's in chapter 2 or chapter 3 of that textbook, but it's a chart that compares the matrilineal African clan to the Indo-Aryan patrilineal clan, okay? And then I asked the viewers what clan, I asked the viewers, what clan does the Israelite culture resemble more? Now, what I should have done was compare an African patrilineal clan, right, to the Indo-Aryan clan, and then say, what form of patriarchy or patrilinearity does the Israelite culture practice? You get what I'm saying? It was like I was comparing apples to oranges, and I made that mistake, in rush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table where I outline the characteristics of an African patrilineal system, comparing the Indo-Aryan, and then present that to the people and say, now, do you believe that the Israelites were practicing European patriarchy, right, or African patriarchy? And then so that would have been a more appropriate question. So I kind of messed up. Yes, I kind of messed up. And, again, I'm not beyond, reproach. I went back, as always, to critique myself, and I noticed that I was in error, and I'm not too proud to say, look, family, I kind of messed up doing these comparisons and then show the correct graph or chart.
I respect your humility,
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. So I just wanted to put that out there to the family. I'll be on Sonetta TV probably in the next week or so. And guess what, y'all? This is so foolish. He wants me, and I'm not saying anything about Sonetta, saying he's foolish, but I'm saying that, for anyone to take this debate would be foolish. There's a pastor that wants to debate me on what book is better for the people, the Bible or Blueprint for Black Power.
Brother T, you already know.
Doctor. You serious? No. I'm hearing things. Can you say it one time?
So I told Sonetta, I said, you gonna set somebody up, man. I said, you gonna set someone up for the kill, man, to say what's better for Black people, Blueprint for Black Power. Oh my goodness. So guys, I'm gonna
can't be serious. I cannot believe someone
I was ordained a pastor.
I'm done.
I was ordained.
I'm gonna log off now.
I tell you, this is 100%, 100% better. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
I walked away from foolishness.
Absolutely, brother. So I was just like, I don't know who would be foolish enough to accept that debate, but you know, there is someone. I mean, I don't want to call him out, but it's a pastor that wants to do it. A heated discussion on the telephone, and he started reading Bible verses to me, and you know, and I said, oh, okay, you know, pastor, and we were going back and forth, and so I told Simon that I said, I'm gonna beat that brother up really bad, because I'm gonna go into the different processes and how, and then I'm gonna ask you in your Bible, show me where we are taught, you know, about the different.
Don't give him too much. Listen to the program.
Okay, yeah. Okay. You know, you're gonna have to show me some things, you know, in this Bible, you know, that can teach Black people to nation build. So that Bible has to teach me about politics. That Bible has to teach me about economics. That Bible has to teach me about entrepreneurship. You know, it's a lot of things that Bible has to teach me. If you're trying to say that it's better for Black people, and the reality is it doesn't teach us that. So
they had one brother on there say he was an Egyptian priest. What's his name?
Brother Jabari. Are you talking about?
How he get that? That's what I'm saying. How he become an Egyptian priest?
A Kemetic priest?
Yeah, how you do that?
You must have got initiated.
You can't become an Egyptian. You would have to show a lineage from the ancient Egyptians to be an ancient. Maybe he had an organization, be a priest in his organization. He would have to show a lineage from the ancient Egyptians that he's a priest. Now, he might be a tour guide. Even Dr. Ben said that he was a griot. Dr. Ben never called himself a priest. Dr. Ben called himself a griot, meaning that telling the history of our people. He never called himself an ancient Egyptian priest. That brother got to show some proof. He got to show and prove there.
He be going in, yo.
Goes in, boy. Brother Travis goes in. But he, I don't know. You're right. I don't know. I'm thinking he got initiated through some shrine or craft or.
I asked Dr. Quasey that. You know, I asked Dr. Quasey that. He said no. There's no such. He said Dr. Ben is a griot, and he initiated him in the order as a griot as well. Dr. Ashwa Quasey, Brother Quasey, who goes to Egypt, a master teacher, and he's in the order of a griot like his teacher, Dr. Ben.
Well, Professor Smalls did go through an initiation. You can find that. He went through the whole process. So it's out there. There are countries in Africa that will, you know,
yeah, but he's a voodoo priest. Dr. Smalls is a voodoo priest.
But he went through that whole process. I mean, you could argue that. How can he be a voodoo priest unless those voodoo priests?
He did that in Africa. He did that in Africa, though. Dr. Small got initiated in Africa.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Now he can show a proof of lineage because voodoo is still in practice, and it, you know, even though we went through a slave trade, there still existed a lineage. I can go with that you are African, a Babaloa. You can be a Babaloa. I can buy that because the lineage and the African spiritual system never broke. They might have been the slave trade, but there was still those who were practicing that system, speak the same languages, and the oral history of that particular order is still in place. I can buy that. Dr. Smalls, that's legitimate there. But when you're telling me you're an ancient Egyptian priest, you know, you got to show them. Yeah.
I feel you, brother.
Wow, I feel you too. I mean, brother, that was a dagger just now, like. That was a dagger, Brother Travis. But yeah, brother. So Sinette is supposed to be setting this thing up tomorrow. This is going to be fun for me, really. I'm just going to put my little slides together this week and get my little statistics and show all of the problems, as many problems that we have in the Black community. I'm going to, I'm going to highlight some of our social, economical, and political problems. And in that Bible, you're going to have to show me how that Bible is going to solve some of these problems, you know, because everything is not a moral problem.
That's real.
You get what I'm saying? It's not, it's not a moral problem. So once I take him out of the realm of morality, I'm going to beat him down bad, because all of the problems that it's not just moral that we have. It's not just moral problems. I mean, that's a part of it, but it's not all of it. So you're going to have to show me where, you know, this Bible can solve our social, economical, and political problems. And he's gonna have some issues doing that. He's gonna have some.
You know, he's gonna have a lot of issues going through a lot of stuff. You're gonna tell me that I'm gonna sit there worship people that don't exist is gonna save our black ass in the 21st century? Please, please, man. I would tell you. No, listen. It was me. I'll tell you, well, Pastor, before we begin, I'm gonna present something to you, brother. I'm gonna take a piece of Bible. I'm gonna lit the fire and let it start set ablaze. I said, listen here, read this. That's it. No debate. Now just shut off my computer right there.
In Dr. Maat's intro on the video that I was suggesting, or excuse me, the lecture I was suggesting on YouTube for you to watch, she broke it down in chapter 1 of Genesis. That right there is powerful. You know, I can't even say no more. Y'all just got to watch what she did with Sinetta TV. But I just want to say, Dr. Wilson, Baba Wilson, talked about spirit possession. I can't remember the video though. The lecture, it was powerful, and he was talking about how we allow any of us could be possessed by a spirit, depending on we open ourselves up to the influence. We look at spirit possession in a whole different, in a way that we shouldn't. But he was saying, you know, even now we're possessed by, you know, the enthusiasm and the energy that we feel right now. But he was talking about even on a deeper level, we become spirit possessed by.
I heard that lecture.
White, you know what I'm saying? White supremacy and the propaganda of racism.
Yep, that was a good lecture. That was powerful lecture.
So that's another panel, Dr. Maat. Let me stop because I can start.
Listen to you. I teach, but I'm a student first. I tell people that all the time. I sit back and I listen. When my brother, we went to a lecture yesterday, Dr. Charles Finch came to town. Shout out to the Sankofa Emma organization who brought him to DC yesterday. So my brother and I had bro, put up both books, bro. You got the other one?
I got Echoes of the Black Land. That's the one I got by.
So we were able to meet both the Dr. Charles Finch. You know, this was the first time I met him. This was the first time my brother T met him. So we listened to the elders speak. We talked to him for a few moments after the lecture. We got our book signed, took some pictures with him. But and then we also saw Anthony T. Browder while we were there.
Wow.
And we had the opportunity to kick it with Anthony T. Browder because he came and just to show support for Dr. Charles Finch. And so I just
now, how you just gonna throw names out like that?
Heavyweights. She saw heavyweights.
Family, we coming your way, yo.
It was definitely a treat.
It was a treat. But I'm telling you, what was really going to hurt that pastor man is when I demonstrate how the Bible is extremely. You say that it's good for Black people, but I'm going to demonstrate that is very dangerous for Black people because it teaches, promotes, and reinforces an alien culture, which causes Black people to become culturally misorientated. And so then I'm going to list the adverse effects of cultural misorientation. So I'm telling you, that's really the dagger that you have us practicing an alien culture, so that's like essentially, I was having a conversation with someone earlier and I said, what would happen to a lion if you trained the lion to be a cat and you sent it into the jungle? Would it survive?
No.
Right? So you get what I'm saying? And
yes.
That's what you're doing. When you have us practicing an alien culture, we're taking on alien behaviors in the environment. Now, if an organism is taking on alien behaviors in the environment, in an environment, will it survive?
No.
And the answer is no.
No.
And so I'm going to go in. I'm just, I don't want to say too much because Brother Impu Haru already told me that. Don't say too much. Don't go in all the bags. But I'm telling you right now, and I'm quoting. I'm bringing the ancestors and elders with me. So I'll be bringing, books by Kobe Kaban with me. I'll be quoting from Brother Kwame Akoto. I will be, of course, quoting Dr. Amos Wilson. I'm going to go all the way in. Falsification of African consciousness. I'm going all the way in to show us how it's dangerous. It's very dangerous for us to stay in that Bible. So anyway, family, I know that we held you long enough. We kind of went off on a tangent. and started talking about other things. But we will be here. We will be back here next Sunday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss Chapter 19 of Blueprint for Black Power. We love you. Have a safe and productive day. Peace and power, family.
Peace.